this has been getting a lot of attention recently. That isn't to say that this is groundbreaking news. That there are long-term investments made by the Chinese Communist Party into America on decades-long operations to collect information or influence politicians. That isn't new information. But this is about a specific person who had influence over Midwestern mayors, local city politicians, and it shows and eventually Eric Swalwell in 2014. Now, who got a briefing in 2015 about the whole operation, but what this specifically shows about China's strategy when it comes to spy operations is the long-term investments they are trying to make. This isn't the same as, let's see if we can get a spy close to Nancy Pelosi. That isn't what they're trying to do here. What they're trying to do is getting spies close to city councilmen, mayors, and local politicians. And the thinking is that they know that these local city councilmen, these local politicians, these mayors, these county councilmen, these state delegates, these state senators will eventually become governors, senators, congressmen, presidents, vice presidents, cabinet members, security officials, advisors. So they are trying to make these long-term investments, thinking down the road, if we still have these ties to them, we can get secretive information during these operations from them, about them while they're city councilmen. And maybe if we stay close enough down the line, we can have influences on them, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. We got sources? We do have sources. So let's read the original Axios article that started this whole hubbub about Eric Swalwell in this call by the right wing to have him removed from his position due to how he gets classified information in his current position in Congress. So let's read this article. It's actually extremely interesting and talks about the specific agent that was involved in this, who went by the name, I think it was Fang Fang. Okay, right into it. A suspected Chinese intelligence operative developed extensive ties with local and national politicians, including a U.S. congressman, that's Eric Swalwell, and what U.S. officials believe was a political intelligence operation run by China's main civilian spy agency between 2011 and 2015. That's 4 years, Axios found in a year-long investigation. Why it matters. The alleged operation offers a rare window in how Beijing tries to gain access to and influence U.S. political circles. See, when we talk about like spy operations, this is how spy operations are usually showed to the public. There was this operation with a silenced pistol when they tried to move into the White House and hack into the presidential computer. Of course, those things, like kind of that high intensity, high level stuff does happen. But a lot of these spy operations are very low level, trying to gain influence, trying to become friends with, trying to get secretive information on, trying to get sensitive information on low level politicians as they move up, and thinking later that investment at the lower level will reap benefits as these politicians, mayors, councilmen will eventually become these higher ranking operatives. A lot of people think that it's just they're throwing these at our congressmen, throwing them at our senators. And so that's what's so interesting about this Axios article, is it shows a whole different perspective about how spy operations and intelligence gathering works. While the suspected operatives' activities appear to have ended during the Obama administration, concerns about Beijing's influence operations have spanned the President Trump's time in office and will continue to be a core focus for U.S. counterintelligence during the Biden administration. Right here, if you look on the right next to, that's actually Eric Swalwell in 2012. That is the spy here, the spy which fled America in about 2015. There they are again on the right side here of the next to these two people, and in the middle on this bottom picture. So you can see she was active between 2011 and 2015. The woman at the center of the operation, a Chinese national named Fang Fang, or Christian Fang, targeted up and coming local politicians in the Bay Area and across the country who had a potential to make it big on the national stage. Through campaign fundraising, extensive networking, personal charisma, and romantic or sexual relationships with at least 2 Midwestern mayors, Fang was able to gain proximity to political power, according to current and former U.S. intelligence officials and one former elected official. Even though U.S. officials do not believe Fang received or passed on classified information, the case was a big deal because there were some really, really sensitive people that were caught up in the intelligence network, a current senior U.S. official said. So, the tactics she used: networking, extensive networking. What that basically includes is you go into a campaign, and this is something I do all the time, and while you're there, basically everybody I talk to, I want to get their phone number, I want to get their email, I want to learn about them, I want to learn who they are, even if they're just a random canvasser, because you know what, down the line, maybe when I'm working in some other campaign, I might need just a bunch of backbone, the backbone of the campaign, canvassers and phone callers, emailers, people who send out mailers. I might need more of that later, and I'm going to get in contact with them. So that's what she was doing, of course, for a separate purpose. One, to, of course, collect information for her operation, and two, possibly so she could then use them later, use these contacts later to further her gains in the political sphere, so she could collect more information by getting canvassers that she had met on other campaigns onto other campaigns to gain influence. Then she can continue to, climb up the ladder. I'm gonna read all subs and donations after I'm done with the story. So if you donate, I'll look at the filter afterwards and shout you out. I just really want to get through this article because this is super, super, super interesting. Personal charisma, obviously, if you are going to be wooing people or trying to get them to talk to you and give you sensitive information, or just trying to get positions within campaigns, you're going to need to be somewhat charismatic. Romantic and or sexual relationships with two Midwestern mayors. This is sometimes called like honeypot operations. I'm not a spy expert, but that's what I remember from the back of my head about what these are called. Basically, if you can get in a sexual relationship with somebody as a spy, you can get some of the most sensitive possible information in the world because they're showing you the highest amount of trust. And usually, if you trust somebody enough to sleep with you, you might whisper stuff in their ear about your career, or maybe if you're extremely stressed out, indulge in them and hope they'll listen to you when you're extremely stressed out about work. Fang was able to gain proximity to political power, according to current and U.S. official, one former elected official. Okay. Private but unclassified information about governing officials. So thankfully, as far as we know, I've already read a large section of this article, she was not able to acquire classified information during this operation. Okay. But it was private information about government officials, such as their habits, preferences, schedules, social networks, and even rumors about them. Rumors being like, oh, this person's having an affair, or this person did this thing that's somewhat inappropriate, stuff like that. Is a form of political intelligence. Collecting such information is a key part of what foreign intelligence agencies do. Among the most significant targets of Fang's efforts was Representative Eric Swalwell, a Democrat from California, who also, by the way, ran for president in this last election season. I doubt he really thought he could become president, but he probably did that to raise his profile. Some who are congressmen and make a run for it really think he could have. Maybe he thought he was more charismatic than he really was, but he did run for president. Fang took part in the fundraising activities for Swalwell's 2014 re-election campaign, according to Bay Area political operative and a current U.S. intelligence official. Swalwell's office was directly aware of these activities on its behalf. So, when we talk about people fundraising or doing random campaign work, there's a lot of people that actually work for a campaign, and you cannot do hardcore filters of all of them. You should do some minimum filters, but when you think about the amount of volunteers, paid staff, and people on a campaign, there's only so much you can do. But this is specifically saying that the campaign was aware that she was working for him during this 2014 period, and that picture from above that we just saw right here is from 2012. Swalwell's office was directly aware of these activities on his behalf, and the political operative said. The same political operative who witnessed Fang fundraising on Swalwell's behalf found no evidence of illegal contributions. So no illegal contributions found from this, okay? Federal Election Commission records don't indicate Fang herself made donations, which she would not be able to because, she's a foreign national, so, well, right there, okay. Fang helped place at least one intern in Swalwell's office. We don't have any information about who that intern was, whether they were also associated with this operation or if they were just a random intern that she met at another campaign, which could be possible. Maybe she was working at another campaign, met a young and happy individual who wanted to get involved in politics and was like, hey, we have this person who I would love to bring to the campaign, and that was possibly, to gain more favor in the Swalwell campaign. According to those same two people, and interacted with Swalwell on multiple events over the course of several years. A statement from Swalwell's office provided to Axios said, Representative Swalwell long ago provided information about this person, whom he met more than 8 years ago and whom he hasn't seen in nearly 6 years, to the FBI. To protect information that might be classified, he will not participate in your story. Now, as far as I'm aware, from everything that I've read, there is no indication that Swalwell gave extremely classified information, that we have no information to substantiate that claim. There has been no really proof of large-scale wrongdoing from everything that I've read. So, really, this is all that the office could have commented on at this point. We have no evidence of wrongdoing really at the moment. The most we have is that she participated in fundraising and got them an intern, which isn't wrongdoing on behalf of the Swalwell campaign. What happened? Amid a widening counterintelligence probe, federal investigators became so alarmed by Fang's behavior and activities that around 2015, they alerted Swalwell to their concerns. So, she got on the campaign in 2014, and 1 year later, 2015, the FBI alerted Swalwell, and they gave him what is known as a defensive briefing. Swalwell immediately cut off all ties to Fang, according to a current U.S. intelligence official. This is what he was supposed to do. It's good that he did this, and he has not been accused of any wrongdoing. Okay, I want to highlight that part. Fang left the country unexpectedly mid-2015 amid the investigation. She did not respond to multiple attempts by Axios to reach her by email and Facebook. Now, I find this... Give me a moment. I find this particularly funny. I don't know if they thought maybe if they pinged her on Facebook, she was going to be like, oh yeah, I mean, yeah, me and Swalwell, I was there trying to gather information on him. Yeah, I slept with those two mayors. They were very nice people. I was trying to get information with, yeah. Like, I don't know what Axios thought they would get in response, but of course, she did not respond. Fang left the country unexpectedly in mid-2015 amid the investigation. She did not respond to multiple attempts to reach her. Between the lines, the case demonstrates China's strategy of cultivating relationships that may take years or even decades to bear fruit. The Chinese Communist Party knows that today's mayors and city council members are tomorrow's governors and members of Congress. This is what I was talking about earlier. These are long-term investments by the Communist Party. These investments are meant not to deliver immediately, to get immediate information. This is hoping that maybe 10 to 20 years down the line, these officials will have secretive conversations as they've moved up politics. And once in that new position, they can slowly funnel that information back home. So let me give you an example. Let's say next year I ran for city council and I got a position on city council. That would be a possible opportunity for the Chinese Communist Party. They send over a spy. Maybe the spy has a ton of Slim Jims, and they offer me Slim Jims because everybody knows I love Slim Jims. And then, that's building that relationship with me. Immediately, that's not going to pay off. I'm not going to tell them, oh, you want to hear about local zoning laws, baby? Like, it's not going to do anything, obviously. But let's say 10 years later, or 20 years later, I get elected to Congress. Because obviously, a lot of people who are involved in local politics want to go to national politics. Me personally, one day I'd love to get involved in national politics. Then 10 to 20 years later, according to what positions I get, or what rooms or what conversations I'm a part of, I could then become a valuable asset they invested in years before that I could then tell this operative without the whole time, me not knowing, secretive information by them being in close proximity to me. In the years since Fang probe, the FBI has prioritized investigations into Chinese influence operations, creating a unit in May of 2019 within the Bureau solely dedicated to countering Beijing's activities at the state and local levels. So, there is a whole unit dedicated to this exact problem. This unit isn't, we counter all Chinese operations in America. It's specifically state level and local level, dealing with city councils, county councils, mayors, and state level politics, state delegates, state senators, governors. A whole unit dedicated to just that. So this shows that our FBI knows about this long-term ambition and are actively trying to counter it. And that's part of the reason, due to that knowledge of this operation, that they were able to tell Swalwell this in 2015 about Fang's intentions. She was just one of lots of agents. So this isn't a particularly like, oh my gosh, story because of, there's a spy in America. I've read many stories of stuff of a similar nature to this. The reason why this is so interesting is because of the congressman that's involved, Swalwell, who ran for president, positions that he holds currently in our government, and the amount of detail Axios was able to gather on this, giving us an insight to how these operations work. Beijing is engaged in a highly sophisticated foreign influence campaign, FBI Director Chris Wray said in a 2020 speech. These efforts involve subversive, undeclared criminal or coercive attempts to sway our government's policies, distort our country's public discourse, and undermine confidence in our democratic process and values. The FBI declined to comment. The Chinese embassy in Washington did not respond to a request for comment. Of course they're not going to respond, because they would either deny the whole thing or just keep their mouth shut. They are engaged in these operations, but they would never publicly admit it. All states are not going to publicly admit they're engaged in these spy operations. Details. Axios spoke with 4 current and former U.S. intelligence officials about the case over a period of more than a year. They requested anonymity because they were not authorized to speak to the media about the case. Axios also spoke with 22 current and former elected officials, political operatives, and former students who knew Fang personally when she was based in the United States. The cover: How Fang Worked. Fang's friends and acquaintances said she was in her late 20s or early 30s when she was based in the U.S. and was enrolled as a student at a Bay Area university. She used political gatherings, civic society conferences, campaign rallies, and campus events to connect with elected officials and other prominent figures, according to U.S. intelligence officials, Bay Area political operatives, former students, and current and former elected officials who knew her. So, all of this right here is just stuff that you would usually do in local level politics. Just try to constantly connect with other people who are involved in local politics, constantly try to network. This is something that doesn't inherently raise suspicion, but obviously is something you can do to raise that low-level influence. U.S. intelligence officials believe she was overseeing likely unwitting subagents, whom she helped place in local politics and congressional offices. Fang attended regional conferences for U.S. mayors, which allowed her to grow her network of politicians across the country. She also engaged in sexual or romantic relationships with at least 2 mayors of Midwestern cities over a period of 3 years, according to 1 U.S. intelligence official and 1 former elected official. We have no clue who these 2 mayors were and of what Midwestern cities. All we know is that they're 2 mayors and of 2 Midwestern cities. At least 2 separate sexual interactions with elected officials, including one of these Midwestern mayors, were caught on FBI electronic surveillance of Fang, according to 2 intelligence officials. Axios was unable to identify or speak to the elected officials. Between 2011 and 2015, Fang's activities brought her into contact with many of the Bay Area's most prominent politicians. She volunteered for Ro Khanna's unsuccessful 2014 House bid. Ro Khanna is a politician I am a huge fan of. He is an amazing progressive Democrat. He was one of the people in the House who was heavily pushing us removing our involvement from the Saudi war in Yemen. He is someone I have a lot of personal respect for, but it seems that she did volunteer for his House bid in 2014, which that was the one that did not succeed. Khanna's office said he remembers seeing Fang at several Indian American political gatherings, but did not have further contact with her. Khanna's office said the FBI did not brief him on her activities. So the FBI did not think it was necessary to go to him and to speak with him, as maybe she was not really gathering that much information from Khanna or getting anything really from Khanna. And it was also during an unsuccessful bid for the House, which would not have reaped many benefits for Fang, of course. Khanna's 2014 campaign staff said Fang's name does not appear in their staff records, though they said that their records do not include all the volunteers. Fang also helped with a fundraiser for Representative Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii in 2013, according to a flyer from the event Fang shared on Facebook. She appeared in photos over multiple years with a host of California politicians, including Khanna, Swalwell, Representative Judy Chu, and Representative Mike Honda. This right here is actually, if we open this as a new image, this is her Facebook post that the spy made, talking about the event and trying to help raise money for Tulsi Gabbard's run for Congress, which I just find that super interesting. This is from this is from 2013, so that's about 7 years ago. Fang helped with a fundraiser for Representative Tulsi Gabbard. According to a flyer from the event, she appeared in photos over. Did I already read that? Gabbard has no recollection of ever meeting or talking with her, nor any recollection of her playing a major role at the fundraiser, a spokesperson said in an email to Axios. Fremont City Council member Raj Salwan, whose name appears on the flyer, told Axios he was unaware of Fang's role in the event, and her name was added to the flyer by other Asian American leaders. Chu's office said they have no records of Christine Fang. Honda said he had no memory of meeting her. There's her talking about right here. Let's look at these images. Right here on the right is her talking about members of the APA, and talking about the organization helping out Congressman Judy Chu. And if you look to the left here, that is her pictured with right next, actually, that's her dead right next to Ro Khanna, and talking about supporting Raj Salwan right there. The bottom line. U.S. officials believe Fang's real reason for being in the U.S. was to gather political intelligence and to influence rising U.S. officials on China-related issues. Close relationships between a U.S. elected official and a covert Chinese intelligence operative can provide the Chinese government with opportunities to sway the opinion of key decision-makers. Beijing may aim to influence foreign policy issues directly related to China or issues closer to home, such as partnering with Chinese companies for local investment, an issue particularly salient among local level officials, such as mayors and city council members.